What's up, everybody? Sarah Racy Bacterville here with Humbly Cocky TV. It's been a moment since my last episode. Again, a lot's been going on. I'm sure you know all about that. However, I snagged a pretty big interview with acclaimed film director Cyrus Nowrasteh, who has a slew of awards under his belt. He's also Iranian American, which is why I'm a little drawn to him. I've been following his work for a long time. So I'm about to go get ready to interview him in about 2 minutes virtually. I need to fix this and put a little lipstick on, but it's about to be fun. I love behind the scenes stuff about what goes down, what they're really thinking. Being in the industry for so long, it's kind of interesting to know what they really think about us, right? All right, subscribe, enjoy Humbly Cocky TV. Let's do it. You're such an inspiration, not only because you're Iranian American, as am I, but you are in an industry that I love so much. And we watched Infidel for the second time last night just to refresh our memories. And
that's awesome, man. Awesome. Well done.
Thanks for watching a second time. You're great.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm just gonna ask. I'll keep this really quick. I only have a few questions for you, but it's
Well, I've got until 3:30 easily. So whatever you need. I've taken the time to meet with you. That's why I'm here. Whatever you need.
You're such a sweetheart. But my main question is, do you take pride in the fact that you're one of the few Persians that are in the industry? At least I think you are. I haven't been to LA that long. I know that's a little terrible.
No, sure. No, absolutely. I do take pride in it.
Yeah.
And there are a number of us here.
Good.
Have all different, ages and generations. There's probably a bunch that I don't even know about.
Yeah.
So, but when I first came to, when I was going to school at USC Film School in the mid 70s, it's a long time ago. And my parents would tell me, we met this guy, Reza Badi, who's a director. And I had remembered seeing his name on Mission Impossible episodes of TV. I mean, this is going way back to the 60s, okay? And I thought, oh, neat, my parents know this guy. Well, they didn't really know him that well, but they kept bugging me to call him. So I did. And he invited me to lunch on the Universal lot. And that was the first time I'd ever been on a studio lot. Wow. So he was so kind to me and so open. And this began a friendship that lasted till he passed away. I feel sort of a responsibility to others, there's only so much you can do. And there's only so much time we have. And a lot of times it's like people want a lot from me. I get incredible requests. so I try to do it in a measured way in terms of reaching out back to that community.
Fitness, gym, athletics is in my blood. But I love the connection that you were a tennis athlete and you got a scholarship to play tennis. And for me, it was, what made you want to go into the film industry and TV? Is it something you always, like as a child, that you were just being creative, you pretended? Or is it something that, you took, some people, I took a class, I loved it in college, and I decided that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life? I mean, what was your...
I always loved it. I loved going to the movies. I was always, you didn't see this as often when I was a kid going to the movies, was the behind the scenes stuff. When they would show the making of the film or discussions with the director or the makers of the movie, even the actors, I always found that fascinating. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. There's people who do this. This is their job. So when I was a kid, we had Super 8. So I would make little Super 8 movies and stuff. And on one of them, I got some completely accidental, incredible sort of visual effects that were just an accident. And and I won second prize in a National Kodak Young Filmmakers Festival.
Okay.
So and I appeared on TV and they showed my little movie. So of course I loved all the attention. We all love to be loved, and it's just like, okay, great. They like my movie. They said nice things to me. I like movies, so why not? And then I eventually ended up at USC. I didn't play tennis at SC. They were too good for me. I played in actually at New Mexico State because they were the only warm weather school to try and recruit me to play tennis. So but once I went to SC, that was it. I was focused on film.
Oh, and you just fell in love with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, look, I was already kind of in love with it. Being in love with it already was kind of what drove me to it. And then it was about, okay, what do people do here? It's like, how do you get what you want? How do you get films made? What's the avenue? So that's, and then I had incredible people come to my classes at SC when I was there. So, Steven Spielberg came to my class. Of course, he was a young guy then. He wasn't who he is now. And I ended up working for Spielberg actually years later. So in 2005, I worked on a miniseries for him. So, and met him a couple times. And the best thing about SC was it got me to LA.
Okay.
I didn't think the film school is whatever you put into it, bottom line. And I wasn't really that interested in just sort of making a bunch of shorts. I was already thinking of the big screen and feature films. So I decided to focus on screenwriting because in the screenwriting classes, you could write, a 120-page script for a movie. Yeah. So I was already thinking ahead that, this will help me because everybody who's coming to class and talking to us was saying, if you're a screenwriter, your chances are much better of breaking in and doing what you want. And it made sense to me.
You write, and the thing I read, you write almost all of what you direct. I mean, you and your wife, I believe, you guys do a lot of.
Yeah, my wife is also a screenwriter. I mean, we've written a bunch of scripts together. We've had 2 that have gotten made, and she had another movie that got made actually before those. So she was a screenwriter on her own. But the process of raising kids and everything else, and also dealing with Hollywood, she didn't like. She loved raising the kids, but just dealing with Hollywood and at the same time having a family. So she drifted out of it. But she always wanted to do Stoning of Soraya M because we were familiar with that story. So I said, let's go after it. And she said to me, that one I want to work on, I want to do. And I only went after that and acquired the book to humor her because I wanted her to get back into writing. I didn't think that project had a chance in hell of ever getting made.
So the one thing I want to say about your films in a good way for me is that you know how to make people uncomfortable and have uncomfortable topics. And I think that,
I do that in person too.
Yeah.
So
I'd be like shaking in my boots if I was on set. No, but you know how to make people uncomfortable. And the Stoning of Soraya M was one of them. I could barely get through that. It's the same as Jim Caviezel is one of your, you used him a lot. I love him, but it's almost the same as The Passion of the Christ for me. Those kind of movies where they are true stories. And I get nauseous. Like I physically become ill where I have to leave the room because you almost are that person. You almost feel that sense. And especially with the Soraya one, talking about my mother fled Iran during 79 revolution. She's American, blonde hair, blue eyes. And it was during the time where she would have been killed. And so those kind of stories, not without my daughter, she can't watch to this day. It's a very similar story that she went through. I told my mom she needs to write a book. My mom's journey was insane from start to finish. But you know how to make people uncomfortable. But what drives you kind of touched base on this, what drives you to make these uncomfortable movies, knowing that the Iranian regime is going to be very angry with you. And you don't care. And I love that because it needs to be told.
Good. Look, I think like Infidel, I think that's a very strong woman character.
Oh my gosh, she was strong.
And the thing is, look, I think that The Iranian government has expressed its discontent over my films going way back. So, it's like I don't have plans on visiting. And I haven't been back there since I was there in the late 70s, not 79. I was not there in 79. I was 77, 78.
Okay, right before.
And that's the last time I was there. So I was in college at the time.
Yeah.
I was there as a kid. I have nominal Farsi, which is basically that of a 5-year-old, because that's when I left. But so I don't worry about the chatter. I've been attacked on other movies too. Movies I did here. I did a mini series called The Path to 9/11, which the Clintons got very upset about. They got really bent out of shape. And so I figured once I survived that, which actually in terms of my career in Hollywood is far more dangerous than worrying about Iran. Now, the Ayatollahs being upset may be more dangerous to me personally, but that's why I have a license to carry in Southern California, which is very hard to get.
Jesus. Oh my God.
So, all I have to do is show emails that I received from people. But regardless, I'm fairly well on in life now. I have grandchildren. It's like, I don't care anymore. I'm going to do whatever I want.
Absolutely.
And the last thing I'm going to do is worry about the chatter.
Good for you. And that's, that's something I admire so much about you because, I know what the Iranian government is capable of. It's not funny, but I don't know if you watched the Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm when he did the whole, the Ayatollah was going to kill him and put a bounty on his head and all this.
I didn't. I've seen some of those, but I haven't seen that. I got to watch it.
It's called Fatwa, and it's just this hilarious thing he does where he makes a play about the Ayatollah and then he puts a bounty on Larry. So he's running around LA with, disguise because he's terrified that he's going to be, murdered. But Infidel's another one. I'm a very strong Christian. I feel like right now in this country, we need to be nourished by our faith. Mm-hmm. And you demonstrate that a lot in your films, and you put that in your films. Mm-hmm. How important is that to you? Because I know for me back in New York, and I'm just gonna put this on blast, I was completely just mocked for being a Christian. I mean, I had agents, big agents, tell me, "What do you believe in Santa Claus? Do you believe in the Easter Bunny?" Told by another agent that I should not tell anybody I was Iranian because I would never get cast in New York City. They won't like you. Pretend you're half Hispanic, you're multiracial, you're all these different things.
Interesting. Well, I think it would be more dangerous for you to say that you're a Christian than to. I actually think the Iran connection isn't bad.
Yeah.
It just depends on who you're talking to, I guess. I think. And you're living where now?
Well, we left New York a year and a half ago, right before all the madness hit. We're in
you had it with New York. You got out just in time. 20
years there. I made a good living. I lived full-time model and actress, started my own company, and my husband was like, "Are you done?" "I'm done." And we got out just in time. Yes.
Good for you.
Yeah, I had to take a stand. I had it. And I also, it's part of the industry that I just felt didn't represent me anymore.
The thing is, life is too short. Okay. Oh. And there is a lot of hostility in the business, but I think that, for example, I think it's harder for women.
Yeah.
For a whole slew of reasons. But for example, I guarantee you that guy, that casting director or whoever it was who talked to you about, do you believe in Santa Claus? He wouldn't have said that to a guy.
No.
Not in a million years. And if he did, he knows he'd get it back, at least verbally. And it's just like, at a certain point, I guess it was the whole thing with Path to 9/11. That was 2006. And a lot of people told me, "You're done. It's over." All this other crap, But I had I had sort of determined at that point that I don't care anymore. I'm just going to say what I believe and just push forward and live my life. And the fortunate thing for me was by that time, I was still fairly well established in the business because I've been doing it for a long time. So I started out in TV and series. So I knew a lot of people who'd worked with me, who knew me, who really knew me, who weren't going to read something in the paper or on the internet. And because they knew me, they'd say, well, that sounds like a bunch of BS. Yeah. So I was well established. So, and by the time I was sort of outed as a Christian in a sense, it was really between Stoning of Soraya M and The Young Messiah, which is not that long ago. So that's fairly late, but the Christian thing was really not that controversial. It was much more controversial that I criticized a president who a lot of people liked and who my own agency, CAA, represented, which is Bill Clinton. And all I did was show the mistakes he made alongside with the mistakes that were made by W.
Yeah. Well,
but, one side's more tolerant than the other. We live in, and that's why we're where we are now, where everything's so polarized. And it's just like, all right,
makes me sick.
The way it is.
And today, just everything that's happening, just everything that's transpired over the last, I won't get too political with you, but I've seen it, and it's very scary to me, given that my family and you too, your family knows of living in a country where you are not allowed to speak out against certain.
No, it's just, it's hard. I think both sides need to be a little more tolerant of one another because, it's like, and I've been battered mostly by the left, but I've also been battered by the right on different projects. But the left is much more, they come to kill you. They come for the jugular. Now, I do think now, especially, there are some real nutbags over on the right.
I'll keep it lighter. Well, the one thing I want to ask about Jim Caviezel.
My movies are not light.
No, I know. I was going to say I'll keep it lighter, but then
I'm much lighter in person.
I was going to say Jim Caviezel is somebody who you use a lot, but my question to you is, do you use him because you do have that connection of a faith-based person or something? Because I know he's really strong in his convictions. Or do you just think he's a great actor and you're like, I'm going to use you again? Or do you just have that personal connection with him saying,
well, you know what, we kind of hit it off when we first worked together because he was a last-minute fill-in on Stoning of Soraya, and we had another actor, a big-name actor, who was going to play that role, whose wife got scared at the last minute. Yeah. So Jim had to get on a plane and fly to Jordan to shoot Stoning with us, and I liked working with him. Now this podcast goes out to who?
This is a YouTube channel, so it goes out to everybody.
All right. So all I can say about Jim is basically I love him. Okay. I think he's a great actor. I think he's committed to what he's doing. And yes, we may have a lot of shared values. There are some things we disagree on, but it doesn't matter. We know with guys, it's a lot easier. So, we can sort of like swear at each other and disagree on something. And the minute later, we're drinking together and laughing. So we can do that with one another. And Jim is an athlete. So I always felt like he likes being coached.
Yeah. Okay.
And we had sort of vowed to work together again. It was just a matter of finding the right thing at the right time. And because he was busy with that show, Person of Interest, which was, I think, 26 episodes a year. So that's a killer. And so Infidel turned out to be it. And we get along great. And we have our moments too, where we clash, but that's the way it is, when you're working with someone that closely.
And you guys are both creative. So it's, I get that. But my favorite, not my favorite part, but one of the most hilarious parts, because this resonated with me, is when one of the lead characters just looks at her and says, so now you finally know how to pronounce Iran correctly. And it was just, he said it for a while and I was just laughing. I looked at my husband and I was like, I've said this for so many years. I said, people who have degrees and are just these intellectuals cannot say it correctly. And I know that's just a small part of the film, but it hit.
No, believe me, I wanted that. We were considering taking that scene out.
Oh.
But actually, it's a great scene because there's so much else going on between him and her and what happened with his daughter. So it ended up back in the movie, but also that line, that exchange was very important to me. That's why I wrote it.
Well, I don't want to give away too much of the film, just in case people haven't seen it yet. But, you know, the dedication that she had, you know, she was a woman.
Yeah.
She's a strong woman. And I love, the movie is amazing. It is so good. It is so good. And yeah, it's based on a true story too.
The combination of true stories. This was a big fight between me and the marketers. Pieces of what happened to him have happened, but I had to meld them together because, and I'll tell you why, I wanted a happy ending. All of these stories of Americans who've ended up in Iran are tragic endings or bad endings. And I didn't want to do another Soraya. I didn't want to do another, because that takes a lot out of you, because that story was devastating. And so with this, I said, they wanted to say based on a true story. And I said, that's a lie. It's not based on a true story. It's inspired by, which is using the word inspired. If it had been left up to me, I wouldn't have had either one on there, honestly. Because, but that's a marketing tool. And the marketing guy, I love. I worked with him before. And we have an agreement, which is he doesn't interfere with the film and I don't interfere with the marketing campaign.
Okay. That's good. I'm glad you can do that. I'm such a control freak. That's why it's really bad. It's so bad. What do you want to tell young directors, producers, writers who are coming up in the industry right now? I get asked a lot about modeling and getting into acting. I get so much email and DMs regarding that. But for someone like you, like, what would you tell a young director, a young writer, the process, especially those who, you know, I was disowned by my father for being a model.
Well, you know, I think fundamentally, whatever I say to anybody shouldn't matter.
Okay.
It's like you are either driven or you're not. I had people telling me I had no talent, you're no good. I'm sure you went through that. You're X, Y, or Z, or you're this, or nobody, you know. It's like people will tell you for their own reasons, for their own hangups, that has nothing to do with you. You know, they're either envious or they're just filled with self-loathing or whatever their problem is. So I tell people I'm happy to give you advice, but it shouldn't matter if you really want this. You know, and for me, writing was the key.
Writing.
Yeah, because I can write. And so I was able to establish myself as a screenwriter and then write a script where people wanted it so badly that I said, well, okay, but I want to direct it. And they said, all right. And so, you know, you have to leverage yourself and you have to make it a situation where they have to have you. You can't rely on friendships. Now, I think it's great to network and all of that.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, and also you got to be disciplined. You know, it's like I'm well along in my career, but I'm up at 5:30 and I'm at this desk by 6 writing every day.
Good for you.
But I will be I peter out around midday. But to me, it's a great life.
Yeah.
I can go play tennis. I can have lunch. I can go sit outside and have a cigar, whatever. So to me, but the thing about it is it's that discipline and repetition that makes it, you know, and it's like, you know, people talk about making movies and talk about writing scripts and talk about it. But for me, the real litmus test is who's doing it, who's producing. And I don't think I am a person of any rare talent at all, but I found the best talent within myself because I stuck to it and I got disciplined. You know what I mean? And I just started to get lucky or whatever and started to get better. And that's the bottom line. People think it's God-given talent. It's not. I mean, it's work.
Yeah, I mean, it's even in my industry, it's like you need to practice. It's not just jumping in front of a camera or just saying it's no, the photographer, the director will say goodbye, like.
Well, see, that's where the sports discipline comes in. Because growing up and playing tennis, that's an individual sport. So you're on your own. You're either driven or you're not. You're either do what needs to be done, get out there and play, or you don't and practice. So that helped me with the writing.
Okay. I'm going to ask you what your next project is because I'm going to be waiting for it. I want to know what you're doing.
Well, you know what? I don't know. I'm developing a ton of stuff.
Okay.
I've got a deal. I'm going to direct a pilot for a series. Okay. Betsy and I are writing something right now that's loosely based on a famous kidnapping case in the Philippines of Americans, of a couple of Americans. There's also developing another story set in West Africa. And I've got another story that I'm developing that I'm chasing with some people that is about, I don't know, I can't really talk about it, but it would be very controversial. It'd be a very controversial piece.
Okay.
And, so there's one in there that I'm missing. I just rewrote a script for some people. It's a World War II thing. They had an existing script from someone else. Actually, a lot of stuff came out of Infidel, which is interesting.
Yeah, I can see that.
Infidel was a real roll of the dice to release it during COVID.
Yeah.
Because it came out actually in theaters in September.
I remember that. Yeah.
And, but we ended up holding for like 9 weeks in most of those screens. So, and that was because it was, COVID. Now the COVID the numbers are deflated,
yeah.
But it actually helped us.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because we're an independent film, so it really was a good call.
Well, I want people to go see that movie or rent it. It's so good, and the lead character, she just reminded me, like you said, so much of my mom.
We all have a story to tell. Yeah. You scratch the surface on most people, and there's always a story.
Always a story. It's always a story. But I won't keep you any longer. It was such an honor talking with you. I think you're just.
Thank you.
Yes.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you. Stay in touch.
No.
And I'll let you know when the next thing is happening.
I would love to hear about it.
Okay.
Bye, Cyrus.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye.